Hello, and thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited you could be here because today we are going to help you make some money with real estate. As a matter of fact, we're going to be talking about one of the most lucrative ways, a couple of the most lucrative ways for you to get money quickly, maybe not quickly in real estate, but pretty quickly, and to be able to get the money you need for even longer term investing like long-term rentals and short-term rentals. So today we're talking about mastering wholesaling. We're going to talk about mastering flipping. And with us today is like really one of the most well-known experts in the space, Joe McCall. Now, Joe is a seasoned real estate investor, creative financing consultant, and expert in outsourcing and marketing as well. So with years of hands-on experience, he has established himself as a trusted authority in the real estate investing space. Now, he's the host of the Real Estate Investing Mastery Podcast. That's Real Estate Investing Mastery Podcast, where he shares valuable insights and actionable strategies to help others succeed in the industry. Now, as an accomplished author, Joe has written four impactful real estate investing books that guide both beginners and seasoned investors towards achieving success. He's also a sought-after speaker presenting at conferences and workshops nationwide, where he educates audiences on creative real estate strategies and effective marketing techniques as well. Now, Joe regularly hosts webinars focusing on automation, on marketing, on delegation, to help investors streamline and grow their business. And before embarking on his journey in real estate, he had an engineering job, but his entrepreneurial spirit led him to transition into wholesaling, where he found his true passion. Now, outside of business, Joe is a devoted family man. He enjoys quality time with his kids, whether it's exploring the zoo, hitting the golf course with his boys, or swimming with his girls. Joe's faith and family are his top priority, and he strives to balance both a successful career and a fulfilling personal life. Joe, you freaked out when I even mentioned golf. Is that for you or is it for the boys?
No, I'm freaking out because that bio is awesome. Like, can you send that to me?
I will. I'll send that to you. Well, you
Please
said
send
so
it.
much, it's hard to condense it like it just to like a short synopsis of what you've done. So congratulations, man, on your success so far.
Wow, thank you so much. Seriously, send me that bio because like I hate writing bios. And every time I get a request to be on a podcast or they ask me to send them a bio or something like, and I try to find the old one that I did, and then it's just outdated, but I don't care. But that was awesome. I love
Well, I'll
that.
send it over to you, and I can relate. It's very uncomfortable sometimes talking about ourselves, but man, you've accomplished so much. So like, let me ask you this: like, my son has an engineering mind and probably go in the engineering space. I've kind of tried to do my part to get him into real estate. So maybe to help me here, how did you make the transition going from engineering to jumping into wholesaling and flipping?
Man, I tell you, it's not as easy as you'd think because as an engineer, I'm speaking in generalities here, but I think a lot of people would relate. I was good at math, I was good at school, and I like having exact answers to exact questions. Like, so when you're, no, I worked on a lot of power plants. I was project engineer, project management for these power plants. And so you have all of it designed, and you have specifications 3 inches thick, and you've got drawings, of the underground utilities, and then the foundations, and then the steel structure, and then all of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and then the finishes, and then all of the heavy, the equipment and the piping, and then the exterior. And it's like you can see the project from beginning to end. And when you're doing math in college, it's like there is always one answer and one way to get to that answer. So I liked order. I liked like, okay, everything has to be done this way. But when I got into real estate, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to work for myself. I liked the idea of cash flow because that just made sense to me. Like, okay, cool, you can own this asset that generates generational wealth, that has all these tax advantages, that you can create good cash flow. You can make fast cash, and you can make, I call it piles of cash and streams of cash. And so I want to get into real estate. So I started it down that journey, but then I realized, wow, that when you're dealing with a seller who owns a property, there every seller is different and every house is different. So it was not easy transitioning from engineer to investor, business owner, because there's so many variables out there, and every situation, every deal is different. Um, so I really had to work, and I was not good at sales. I'm still not good at sales. Like, an engineer is more fact, like analytical, right? But somebody who's really good at sales is more motion led, like is maybe more relational, and it's just a different thing that I had to learn how to negotiate, how to that book was really valuable to me, How to Win Friends and Influence People, like how to be a nice guy, not to be a data nerd. So, but it also has helped me in some ways too, because like I like to analyze deals. I like to analyze markets and drill down into, okay, which areas of the country are the best areas to do deals in, and which areas of the country are have the best cash flow. So I use my engineering brain to kind of analyze areas of around the country to find the best cash flowing markets. But I think, what's important is if somebody listening to this has a drive and a desire to be an entrepreneur and to work for themselves, call their own shots, then you'll figure it out. You'll find a way to do it. Because I knew when I was working my engineering job, I was making good money, and I quit my job in 2009. I was working for a big electrical contractor, doing scheduling and planning for a huge power plant, $500 million power plant. Like, I knew it was more dangerous, more risky to have a job than to actually work for yourself, because I was one paycheck away from, complete financial devastation, right? Like, even though I was making good money, I was living paycheck to paycheck. No matter how hard I worked, I got paid the same every 2 weeks. And if I was lucky, I did a really good job, I'd get a 3% raise. Um, I was always, I was not worried I wouldn't be able to find another job if I got fired, but I'd have to probably move my family somewhere around the country there. So it's like, I didn't want that anymore. And I also, when I was working my corporate engineering job, looked at the middle managers and what they were doing. And like, oh my gosh, I do not want that. They were the first ones to the job, the last ones to leave. They were working, 70, 80 hours a week. They had tons of pressure on them. And they had a bunch of people underneath them that weren't happy, and a bunch of people over them that were not happy. And I thought, I just don't, that does not look appealing to me at all. So I really liked real estate. I spent a ton of money on my education. And because of my engineering brain, I like to call myself, I was a professional student for 3 years before I actually started doing deals. And it wasn't until I stopped asking all of the what if questions and stopped wondering or worrying about having all my I's dotted and all my T's crossed, and just started trusting the system and knowing, okay, I'll figure it out as I go. That's when I started having success and started actually doing deals. And I finally quit my job in '09, and, haven't looked back since. I hope that answered that question.
Yeah,
That
no, that's
wasn't,
great. And I think one of the things that's interesting that you mentioned is you like the engineering skills that you have and being able to apply those to really evaluating deals. So when you're teaching your tribe, like what are some of the things that you're teaching them regarding finding the right wholesale property and then evaluating that to make sure it's actually the right deal?
yeah. Well, I think learning how to find deals is the most important skill in real estate, being a deal finder. Um, and I've done all kinds of deals, lease options and wholesaling and buy and hold and BRRRR strategy and fix and flip, and for houses and for land. And I'm mainly doing land right now, vacant land. Um, so you need to learn how to find the deals. I realized this early on, that we're not in the real estate investing business. I'm not in the land business. I'm not in the house business, not in the commercial business. I am in, or not in the multifamily business, right? I am in the marketing business. And when I realized that, like that, everything changed for me, because I realized, okay, well, if my goal is to make 100 grand a month, 10 grand a month, well, that means like one deal a month or 10 deals a month. What is it? Or does that mean like I need to have 200 doors? Or so you take your income goal and you break that down into, okay, what does that mean? Like, what do I have to do every day to get to that 10,000 a month goal? Or maybe it's $1,000 a month. And that means, okay, well, if I'm wholesaling, which is my favorite strategy, it's the fastest way to make money in real estate. Wholesaling, period. I'll argue and win every single time that wholesaling is the best way to get started in real estate. It's not just a good strategy for beginners. Everybody needs to learn wholesaling. I can't tell you how many rehabbers I have found and know over the years rehabbers, they started wholesaling. I got tired of it. This is like for kindergartners. I want to be a real professional investor. I want to own a bunch of doors. I want to own a bunch of storage units, and or I want to do fix and flip. Instead of making 10 grand on a deal, I want to make 50 grand on a deal. How many rehabbers I've met that go back to wholesaling after a few years? Rehabbing is like adult daycare. It's completely frustrating. There's so many challenges with that. Owning a bunch of rental properties, I hate that. Managing tenants who don't care about your property. So many. You think you're getting $200 or $300 a month cash flow in that, but you're not. One vacancy means 3 months of no rent, means 3 months of paying a mortgage payment, means replacing the water heater, means cleaning everything up, replacing the carpets, painting the walls, paying the property management company another month's rent as a tenant finder's fee. So it's like, I love wholesaling. It's the fastest way to make quick cash. And sometimes it's better to make a quick nickel in a slow dime, as I say. Being a deal finder is the most important aspect of this. And when you understand we're in the marketing business, all right, so if I want to make 10 grand a month, that means I need to do one deal a month. And if I need to do one deal a month, that means I need to make, I don't know, 20 offers. And if I have to make 20 offers, that means I need, I don't know, 50 leads. And if I need 50 leads from my marketing, well, that means I need to send, maybe for land, it means I need to send about 500 postcards a week. And if I send 500 postcards a week, I'm going to get this many calls. I'm going to reach this many people. I'm going to make this number of offers, and I'm going to get 1 out of 30 accepted. And it's a marketing business. And I would argue whether you're doing commercial, residential, or whatever, it all comes down to marketing. And leads are the lifeblood of your business. Even if you're buying deals off the MLS, you're still marketing to realtors. You're still every day you've got to, if you're not doing it, you need to get somebody else that's going on the MLS every single day looking for deals and making offers. And final thing I'll say to this is I say this all the time. Your speed to income in the real estate business is directly proportional to the number of offers that you make. There's a direct correlation to how many offers are you making. So if you want to make 10 grand and you're struggling, and you're like, I don't know, Joe, I've been at this for 6 months. I've not done a deal yet. I'm going to ask you a real simple question. How many offers? There's two metrics that will tell me immediately the health of any real estate investing business. How many offers have you made in the last week? And how many offers have you made in the last month? That's it. And that I preach that over and over and over again because I've seen it in my own business. When I'm struggling and I'm not making as much money, I turn around and I look and I say, all right, well, how many offers have I made? Oh my gosh, I've not made any offers in 2 months. Maybe that's why I'm having a financially tight season right now. So that's super important.
So, Joe, when you're talking about that, and you talk about the marketing aspect, are you typically trying to target like distressed homeowners directly? Is that kind of your target market who you're going after?
Yeah, I like direct to seller. I don't like dealing with realtors or listed properties that a million other people have looked at. I want to go directly to the homeowner or the landowner who, you know, it's a numbers game. So I go directly to them, and I don't want a middleman. Um, that's the easiest way. And for me, for land specifically right now, I like to target people who own vacant land. I go see where this is the engineering mind in me. Where are the hot markets where there's a ton of activity going on? Where a lot of people are buying land right now, okay, in the last 6 months. I find those hot zip codes, and then I pull a list of everybody who owns land in those zip codes, who has owned it over 5 years, and they live outside the area. So they live outside the zip code. And I just download that entire list. I send them an ugly postcard that drives them to a voicemail. And I get maybe 5% response rate on that postcard. 5% of the people who get it call. So if I send 1,000 postcards out, I get 50 calls. And of those calls, I might reach half of them. So I call back and talk to about 25 people. And I know over time, I'll do one deal out of every 25 to 30 leads that come in. So yeah, I send postcards to the owners, and you could spend a lot of time like drilling down and really narrowing the list, and instead of sending 1,000, then just send maybe 250 to a real specialized list of people that might have some signs of distress, like probate or delinquent taxes, or foreclosures or whatnot. But I just send everybody. I think it's easier and faster. Just send mail to everybody because you're going to find people that others are missing.
Where do you find the best in your world? You talked about finding a market, right? And especially with land. Do you usually focus just on one market, or are you focused on multiple markets nationwide? Do you find that to be too overwhelming and confusing? You just focus on like one, two, three select markets.
That's a great. That's a good question because it's better to be an inch wide and a mile deep. But at the same time, you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. So I typically try to be. Sorry, my thing is pinging here. I want to be like in maybe two or three markets. And when I say markets for me for land, I first look at, okay, which states have the most land activity right now, right? And then I look at the state and which county in these states have the most activity. And I tend to stay away from like the number one, number two most popular markets because it's just too competitive, maybe. And then I'll look at the secondary, third, fourth counties. And then I go into those counties and I say, all right, what zip codes in these counties are most of the land activity happening? Where are the home builders building new homes right now? And they're still building a lot of them. Like I just saw the other day, we need 7.2 million homes to meet current demand right now. So there's home builders looking for land. Well, where are they building the homes right now? And so, like, I go into maybe three different counties and then go to the top zip codes in those counties and just pull lists. And so, because of that marketing plan I have at the beginning, I want to know, all right, who am I going to send marketing to? If I want to do 20 grand a month, I need to be sending 1,000 postcards a week. So I'm just sending 1,000 postcards every week. I'm trying to at least uh, into those areas. And I only mail the same area every 3 months. So at any one time, yeah, I'm in four or five different markets because I just need that many records to mail to.
So when you do that, where are you getting your list from?
Right now, Freedom Soft, they right here, you see my cup. I love Freedom Soft. I don't own it. I wish I did. My friend Rob Swanson does. Um, I have a custom signature edition of Freedom Soft that I've kind of customized with them for land, but I get my lists of vacant land owners from Freedom Soft. I also can find the top zip codes in a county from Freedom Soft where the most land activity is happening. I get my list from them and I do my direct mail from them. And they give me the phone numbers, the voicemails, the websites. They help me organize all the leads. When I get a lead that comes in, it's all managed inside of FreedomSoft. And then I send my offers from FreedomSoft to the sellers. Sometimes I send offers before even talking to the sellers. But generally, it's better to talk to them first. I send all the offers from there. And then the automated follow up happens from FreedomSoft. So it'll keep on sending them letters and postcards and text messages and emails. And so the follow up is really important. That I operate under like this philosophy of no lead left behind. Every single lead that comes in gets an offer, and then I follow up with every single offer every 30 days until they tell me to stop, or they sell the property, or they die.
That it Freedom Soft, is that just for land, or does Freedom
No,
Soft work to be able to get lists and do any kind of wholesaling?
FreedomSoft is mainly built for houses. Um, and so, but I'm friends with Rob Swanson, and I said, hey, I want to use this because I was using it for houses. I said, I want to use this for land. And so they, in the last year or two, have added in, the ability to get land lists for sellers and for buyers. They have other tools in there that kind of like, you could, if you wanted to, put a QR code on your postcards or on your letters, and then the seller goes to that website from their phone, and it's called a deal negotiator, and it's a bot that just asks some questions, um, and then they put information about their property on that bot, and then it comes into your Freedom Soft. I would rather just get them on the phone. I just want to go directly on the phone as soon as possible with the sellers. I don't want to make them jump through a bunch of hoops. So just call this 24-hour recorded voicemail. That's what I do. My postcard says, hey, text or call this 24-hour recorded voicemail, and we will call you back. And And so then when they call that voicemail, um, the voicemail just says, "Hey, thanks for calling. We're investors. We buy land. If you want to sell your land, leave your name and number and the reference ID on that postcard, and we will call you back and send you an offer." That's what our voicemail says. And at that point, we just keep on calling them back until we've talked to them, and then we keep on sending them offers until they tell us to stop, or they sell it to somebody else, or they die.
So Freedom Soft you use to go in and find the lists, and then it sounds like
Yeah,
it's marketing automation completely, where
yeah.
then you're able to from there put in the list, or well, actually, it already has the list, and then spit out the actual postcards to them, and then push them to a pre-recorded number, which is in Freedom Soft. Then the
Yeah.
person comes into Freedom Soft, they leave a message, say, "Hey, I'm interested," and then you're getting them on the phone, following up right away, talking to them more, and
Or
then
texting them. Sometimes it's just a text conversation back and forth. Yeah.
from there you're making them an offer based on your evaluation.
Yeah. I look at what can I sell the property for? If it's land, I'm looking at, okay, well, similar properties here are selling for 50,000. So I'm going to sell mine for 40. And then if I know I'm going to sell mine for 40, I subtract my profit and I pay realtor commission and I subtract maybe if I'm borrowing private money and closing costs and pictures. And we don't do anything to the properties either. We don't do anything to the land. We don't subdivide it. We don't entitle it. We don't add utilities. We don't do anything. We don't clear it out. And we just get it under. So like if everything there is selling for 50, I'm going to sell mine for 40. So I'm going to offer usually around 40 to 50%. I'm going to offer maybe 20 grand for that property. And I know it's a numbers game. 1 out of 30 gets accepted. So I just send an offer out. I like to say we're deal finders, not deal creators. So I'm talking to them on the phone for a few minutes just to establish a little rapport to get them to know, like, and trust me. But I call it, I'm the reluctant buyer. When I have them on the phone, I need them to convince me of why I should want to buy their property, right? I'm not trying to sell them on anything. I'm not trying to convince them to sell their property to me. I'm just like, hey, tell me about your property. What's going on? What's your situation? What would you like to see happen? When would you like to see that happen? Okay, so how much do you want for your property? What's more important to you? To sell it fast or to sell it for the highest price possible? This looks like a nice property. Why do you even want to sell it? Why don't you just list it with a realtor? You should just list it with an agent. So I'm always like, that's how I'm talking to them. And I tell them, listen, if you want full retail, I'm not your buyer, right? I can give you the names and numbers of 4 or 5 realtors that are selling land in the area, and you should just call them. But if I'm the easy button, if you just want to get cash, I can close in 30 days. I can probably help you with that. But so that's my approach with them. They know I'm an investor, and I know that I'm gonna make a lot of low ball offers. I'm gonna make a lot of people mad, and I'm okay with that. If I haven't made somebody mad by 12 o'clock, I'm not doing enough marketing. I'm not making enough offers.
I love that strategy. That is a good strategy. I love what you do too. I think it's brilliant in so many ways. I love land. I love land. I mean, I'm one of those guys where I've flipped. I'm not a ton of land, but what I've always done is always done it completely backwards. I've sent out offers to begin with, then they're mad. You have a relation with them. But then what I'm trying to do is find retail buyers. It's freaking hard, man. It's like freaking hard. You put them on all the retail sites and stuff. But I love what you're doing. So when you're looking for your buyers, who's buying? Is it retail people that are looking to buy land to build? Or are you just pretty much strictly selling it to builders, to construction companies?
It depends, right? So like, first of all, I only go into the markets, into the areas where there's already a lot of buyers, right? And so you can go in and there's a ton of properties going on in your area of Florida. And I could go in and I can see, all right, so in this county, these are the top 4 zip codes, right? And these are who the buyers are that are buying all the land, and this is what price they're paying for them. So if I know somebody, I don't care if they're a builder or an owner, just a regular retail buyer, if they're an investor, I don't care. I don't care. I just know that everybody's buying lots in this area for $30,000. So I'm going to sell mine for $27,500. And I know if they're paying 30, I should be able to sell mine pretty quickly with just a few phone calls. if I can sell it for 27, 28,000 bucks. And so that means then if I know I can sell it with a few phone calls for 28 grand, and it will remind me of this letter that I like to send out to the buyers that works like mad. It's crazy. You'll never have a problem selling a property again if you understand this. So I know if I can sell it for 28 grand with just a few phone calls, I'm gonna now depending on the market. If it's a really hot market like where you are in that part of Florida, I'm not going to make an offer at 50 cents on the dollar. I might make an offer at 60 cents, maybe 70 cents on the dollar. I just want to make a quick 5, 10 grand, be in and out real quick. So if I know I can sell it for 28 grand, I'm going to offer 18 grand. That's it. I'm going to offer $18,000. I know I get one out of every 30 of them accepted. I get an offer accepted for 18 grand. I'm going to I'm going to do a couple things in Florida specifically. I can get a list of everybody who's owns, I can do this in FreedomSoft. Everybody who's bought land recently in that area in the last year. I'm going to download that list. I'm going to skip trace them. I'm going to call them all. I'm going to say, hey, I see you bought this land for a quarter acre lot for 30,000 bucks. I'm a wholesaler. I got another piece of land in that area and I'm trying to sell it. If you want for 28, you bought that one for 30. I'm selling this one from 28. It's cool if you don't want it because I got 10 other people right here I'm calling right now. So let me know. I'm going to sell this thing in the next few minutes. So you could do that. The second thing that works really, really well, and I learned this from somebody, you're in Tampa. I learned this from somebody in Tampa probably 15 years ago. And in fact, the funny thing is, the guy who taught me this strategy was one of the founders of FreedomSoft before Rob Swanson, my friend, bought FreedomSoft. And he told me this. I started my podcast in 2011. So this must have been 2012 when 2011 or 2012, it was one of the first guys interviewed on my podcast. And it's so funny. He takes if you get a yellow legal pad, I got one over here, but he gets a red Sharpie and he writes on this thing, urgent, help, exclamation point. I've got this property that I need to, and it says, don't throw me away. He writes in there, don't throw me away. He says, help, I've got this property near the one you own at address. I've had it on the market for some time now. I can't wait any longer. I need this thing sold today. Please make me an offer. The title is clear. Taxes are paid. I need this thing sold today. Help! Exclamation point, underline, right? And he puts his name and his phone number, his cell phone number. That's important. You want that when they call you, you want to answer it. Please help. And then he crumples the letter up and then folds it back into fourths, puts it in an invitation envelope, hand addresses 50 to 100 of these invitation envelopes with a real stamp. And he makes the stamp a little crooked. And then sends those out to all the active buyers in that area. Phone rings off the hook. This guy taught me this thing back in 2012. So this is 13 years ago. Is that right? And every time I've done that, I've never had a problem finding buyers for my deal, as long as it's a good priced deal, right? So like what that letter does is they get this letter, invitation envelope, and there's a little thickness to it. This is weird, right? It's not a thin letter. And they open the flap. It's handwritten, so they're going to open it. And there's this crumpled up letter in there. And it says, do not throw away. Don't throw me away. And it's a handwritten red Sharpie pen, that pretends to be this desperate, motivated seller. And when I get calls from these guys, they'll call me like, yeah, I'm interested. Tell me. And then a lot of times they'll tell me, hey, listen, I'm a wholesaler too. I'm an investor. I love this letter. I don't want this property. I'm just telling you, I like the letter. Thanks for sending it. I get that all the time too. But that letter works like crazy. And so you could just now keep in mind, I'm sending this to investors. So they're going to expect a little discount. But I can sell them quickly like that. If I want full retail for the property, I'm going to put it on the MLS. I'm going to list it with a realtor, right? And then instead of selling it for 28, I might sell it for 30, 32,000. But that also means I'm going to have to probably take it down. I'm probably going to need to close on it and buy it and own it for a little bit while I then turn around and list it and sell it on the MLS with a realtor. So you can go directly to the buyers who are already buying land, or you can, go ahead and take down the property and then list it on the MLS and sell it out with a realtor. That's where you'll get the most money, but that takes a little longer.
Yeah. Joe, I'm curious. So I got into land myself a while ago because nobody's in it. I thought it's so much fun. Like I just absolutely loved it. It's I don't talk about it a lot, but I do it. I love it. There's this town in Nevada. I say that I own that town, like hundreds and hundreds of acres in this town I own. I just loved it. But I've
Do you
never
really?
heard of anybody wholesaling and flipping a land. I've never even heard of it before. So it makes me wonder, like, how much competition do you have? Because flipping, everybody's getting into flipping, right? Real estate, actual properties. And to be honest with you, when you came on, I didn't even really dig in enough to know that land was your specialty. So, but I've never heard anybody doing this. So, like, do you run into very much competition, or is it just kind of you can grow as
Well,
much as you want to grow because there's not a lot of people doing what you do?
this is why I stopped doing houses because just got tired of competing with every other YouTube wholesaler out there. I felt like plowing through concrete doing houses, and, especially in some markets. Um, it's just insane. It used to be back in the good old days. By the way, ever since 2011, when I, no, 2006, when I got started doing real estate, everybody's always complained about competition. All right. Like even back then. And then when the market crashed, people were complaining about not being able to find sellers or not being able to find buyers. So either people are complaining about not being able to find the sellers or the deals, not people complaining not being able to find the buyers, people complaining about the market being too cold, too hot, too competitive. That's nothing's new. But um, I started complaining about hell. There's too much competition for these houses, and my I love direct mail because the quality of the lead from a direct mail piece is way better than a cold calling lead or, and even with PPC, pay per click, or PPL, pay per lead, those guys who are putting their information on a website, they're also putting it into about three or four other websites. So you're
Sure. Yeah.
competing really, it's very fierce. But the quality of a direct mail lead is way better. If they're calling me, they got my postcard, and they're just like, all right, I want to get done. I want to get rid of this thing. And then I'm calling them back. So the positioning is way different on the phone.
Sure. Yeah.
But like I I started when I was doing direct mail for houses, I was lucky if I got half of 1% response rate on my letters or my postcards. But with land, I was getting 2-3% response rate with letters. I was getting 5 to 10% response rate with some of these postcards that I use. And the higher response rate postcards are more generic. They're more like, hey, I need to talk to you about your 2 acre property. Call me. It's important. Doesn't say why. It just says, call me. I got a 24-hour recorded voicemail. So I'll get, 5 to 10% response rates with that. But anyway, there was virtually no competition. And unlike a house where you have to close, like you get a 1 week inspection contingency, you've got to close right away in 30 days. And in some markets, you got to close in 2 or 3 weeks if you want that deal. Well, with land, nobody else is really talking to that seller. I can close in 3 months. And so my offers when I was first getting started, it was 90 days. Now I'm doing it 30 days because like I know the business a lot better. I can close faster. So, so you don't have to close right away. And in my contracts, I did know I don't do earnest money deposits. I don't need any proof of funds. And I got 90 days to close because I don't have the competition. So when I was first doing it, it was like I would send out a bunch of mail. The voicemails would come in 2 or 3 times a week. I would listen to the voicemails and I would just send the offers out. And then I would only talk to people after they got the offers. Now what I do though is we send out direct mail to a voicemail, but we call them back right away, and we're more aggressive on the phone because you just do more deals that way. But you could never do that with houses. You couldn't if you're doing mail for houses. You can't just sit down once or twice a week and listen to your voicemails and then send them an offer and then talk to them after they get your offer.
Yeah.
But with land, you can. And the land, the sellers are just not as attached to that vacant lot as they are with the house. With a
Sure.
house, they grew up in it. They've lived there for 20 years. They put $100,000 into it. It's like they have, and there's a lot more money, and there's usually a mortgage. With land, a lot of times they haven't been out there in 5 years, 10 years. Their husband bought it and they just inherited it. They're tired of paying the taxes. They have no emotional attachment to that property. It's like they've owned it for 20 years. They just want to get rid of it. So it's a lot easier to negotiate bigger discounts on those kinds of properties. Um, and there's just not as many people chasing it. So it's great. Now there's still a demand there. If it's priced right, you can still sell land very easily if it's priced right. And sometimes, if you want to sell land with owner financing, you'll get for every one call from a cash buyer you get wanting to buy your property with cash, you'll get 4 or 5 calls from people wanting to buy with owner financing. If you can sell your properties on financing terms, maybe 200 a month, $500 a month, owner financing, you can sell these things like crazy.
Yeah, I did.
Um,
I buy them for 1,200 bucks, and then I would sell them for $6,000. 10-acre parcels in Nevada. I mean, left and right. Like it was just it's postcards automatically. People are contacting you back, doing the deal. I mean, like you said, it was crazy. No competition, and then coming in, buying for 1,200 and selling for six. I just never heard of the flipping thing. I mean, what you're doing is absolutely brilliant.
so you're that's really cool. You're selling them for cash flow.
Yeah, well, I was selling for cash flow, but the problem with it was became too cash intensive. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I had no problem getting I had no problem getting the willing sellers. The problem is I'm forking out all this money and then the payments, it took me like 10 months to get back based on the payments, what I put in.
Oh my gosh, it
You know what
took
I'm
you
saying?
10 months to get all your cash back.
To get all my
That's
cash back.
horrible.
So, and I loved it because it created the recurring income I wanted, but eventually it became so cash intensive. But now, if you take what I did that I loved and then you incorporate what you do, well, then it makes perfect sense, right? Because now you can come in and get the cash doing what you're doing and then be able to do the good properties on terms. And if you
Yeah.
combine those two, that's a,
Right, right. So just wholesale every fifth deal, right?
yeah,
And
right.
then use that money to acquire the more deals. But that's funny because you're complaining about getting your cash back in 10 months. Can you imagine and owning an asset free and clear, no debt, and getting all your cash? Imagine buying a house, no debt, and getting all your cash back in 10 months.
It's,
Impossible,
yeah, I
right?
love land. I'm so obsessed with land because I owned a mortgage company. So I know how hard it is to be able to buy land, right? Like, and so because of that, it's just a market most people don't go after. Like, because it's hard, you don't get mortgages and stuff like that in a lot of cases with lands. That's why you have a specialty niche of knowing how to finance these deals that you help your tribe with, right? We haven't even had a chance to dive into that. But because that's the piece that people can't figure out. So people just stay away from land. And so I just
Yeah.
loved it. I mean, I'm so obsessed with everything you're saying and freaking out a little bit because it's
What?
just so
Yeah.
cool. What you're doing is so
Here's
super cool. It's one of the coolest
here's
things.
the cool thing. Like people are going to ask, well, what isn't the default rate higher with land when you're selling it on terms with owner financing? Yes, it is. But here's the thing. Um, let's say your default rate is 25%, which is a huge number, 35% even, right? You own these properties free and clear,
Right.
right? So guess what? Okay, somebody stops making payments. All right, well, just put it out there,
You
find
just
another
sell it to
buyer,
somebody else. It's like
sell
if
it to
I get
somebody else.
paid or like I get my money back and then they drop out and then I own it. It's still titled in my name. So I just literally just sell it to somebody else. You actually benefit more if somebody
Yeah.
defaults than if
Oh, but you
somebody
got to pay
actually pays
taxes.
through.
Oh, yeah, I got to pay $100 a year in taxes.
If that. So I love everything you're doing, and I've kept you well over the time I told you I would. So what I'd like to do is, I'll get back with you, maybe bring you back on because you're big in marketing, you're big on this financing side. There's so many things. But for people like me that are geeked out, and for those watching, look, you watch a show with 900 episodes deep. Of 900 something episodes, I've dove into two things. There's two things that I've had a guest on that I'm like, that's freaking brilliant, and I did it. One was land, still love it, and the other was local SEO. Still love it. And Joe, I'm going to be on your YouTube channel wherever you tell us to go because I love what you're doing. So for others like me that are geeking out because what you're saying is so cool, where can I go to learn more from you? Because we talked about the crumpled up letter. We don't know what it says. We talked about several things that we didn't get enough time to drill down on. So people want to know how to figure that out. What does this ugly postcard look like? What's on there? All these things you're teaching, where can they go to be able to learn more and dive in a little bit deeper?
Well, there's two things. Well, my YouTube channel is probably the main thing. So if you just go to YouTube, do a search for Joe McCall, or if you go to joemccall.tv, I think it redirects you to my YouTube channel. Um, I did a bunch of content last year as we're recording this. It's January 8th. I did a ton of content last year on vacant land, and I've taken about the last month off, so there's not a lot of activity there the last month, but I'm going to be doing a lot more videos on land. That's number one, my YouTube channel. Number two,
What's up, guys? Joe,
I
you know
every
what? It's time to
every
Sorry, buddy.
Tuesday
I
or
was just
every
making
Saturday. That's all right.
sure the
Uh,
URL worked. I didn't mean to like play your video.
yeah,
My
yeah.
bad.
So every Saturday I do a class. It's usually recorded. Sometimes it's not. Where if you go to joemccall.com/Saturday, joemccall.com/Saturday, I do a class where I teach. I do the premise of this class is, hey, if I were to start all over again from scratch, what would I do? And I show how I would find the market, how I go into the market, how I set everything up. I actually do some marketing. I call sellers, call buyers, I call realtors, and I start making offers. So it's like, watch me do this stuff. And if you go to joemccall.com/Saturday, it's a $7 class, and I teach the stuff in there. That's a good thing to go see. And I'm coming out with a book real soon. It's already done, but it's called Flip Dirt, Not Houses: How to Create Monthly Cash Flow by Flipping Vacant Land in 5 Easy Steps. And it's a really good book, in my humble opinion. And I don't have a URL to take people to this yet, but if you just go to my YouTube channel, you'll see soon some information about that.
Perfect.
And
Joe,
I
thanks for
think it will
coming on.
be on Amazon. I'm going to be recording an audio book for this.
When do you think it's
Flip
going
Dirt,
to be
Not
rolling out?
Houses. Say again?
The book. When's it going to be rolling out?
Probably in the next 30 days. So, early February, it'll be on Amazon.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to follow up with you and then see if we can get you on right around that time,
Okay.
and then maybe and then schedule the release of this right around there, so then we can do a big push for the book.
Yeah, cool.
All right, Joe, thanks for coming
Yeah.
on with us today. This was awesome.
Man, it's been fun. Appreciate it, Ty.
All right, so listen, if you're watching this, like I said, no exaggeration. I mean, you watch the show probably regularly, 900 episodes. This is one of the things I'm more excited about than anything else I've heard, because it's just so much brilliance to what Joe says. It's worth going back and listening a second time. But there's two actions you should really take right now. The first of all is you should go to Joe's YouTube channel, which you can get to at joemccall.tv. Let me spell that for you. It's Joe, Joe. McCall is MCCALL. MCCALL. So you're going to go to joemccall.tv. If you heard his video play, you could tell it worked because I tested it to make sure it worked. So make sure that you check that out. You also want to go to joemccall.com/Saturday. And at joemccall.com/Saturday, you can get in on that regular training that he has as well. And then, Joe, should we send him to the Real Estate Investing Mastery?
Yeah, yeah. So my
Okay.
logo back here, Real Estate Investing Mastery is my podcast. I've been doing that since 2011. So if just any podcast player, Real Estate Investing Mastery, and you'll see my show. I do, a couple times a week, I'll do a new episode, and I interview a lot of people. Sometimes I'm in my car, I'll pull out my phone and I'll record an episode, right from my car. It's
Yeah,
fun.
so make sure you check that out as well, which is real estate investing mastery, mastery.com. So thanks for coming on with us today, Joe. Again, I
Thank
really
you, Ty.
appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good. And thanks for tuning in. Make sure you check out joemccall.tv, and make sure you check out joemccall.com/Saturday. And then on the podcast, you can find his podcast online. You can also go right to his podcast at realestateinvestingmastery.com. Make sure you check out those links right now so you can master doing wholesaling with land. Thank you very much for tuning in. Take care. Have a great day.